Good morning, Carlsbad. I'm Macy Markham, live here with very special guest Yalda. Now, she has a bit of an interesting background. She grew up in Iran, and when she was 8, moved to the U.S., only to move back to Iran just before starting high school. Now, you obviously had a lot going on, and while this interview plays, we're going to be having some B-roll playing in the back so you can get a little bit of an idea what we're talking about. So you did have a lot going on through those transitions. Can you talk to me a little bit about that?
Well, I mean, any transition is hard, but I guess it was pretty difficult because this happened multiple times. We first came to America from Iran, and then we moved back again after a couple of years. So, but really, the transitions were mainly difficult because of the differences between the different cultures. But while everything is pretty much the same, there were some big differences that made a really big impact. But other than that, it was really all worth it. So it was pretty good.
So I'm glad that you do think it was all worth it. Talk to me a little bit about what those differences are and what it's like going to school in the U.S. versus going to school in Iran.
Well, the main difference was the school part of the whole thing because the schools are very different, especially in Iran. Schools are mostly focused on studies, your grades, and really not what you want to actually do, maybe other than the studying part of school. Because here we have electives, we have different opportunities to actually try out other stuff than like physics and mathematics and stuff like that. But in Iran, they don't really find that important enough to be a part of school. So when I went back for freshman year, it was really difficult because I knew what I could do here, like broadcasting, but nothing like that was going to be given to me in the schools in Iran. So
That is a really big difference, but we are glad you got to be a part of some broadcasting here when you came back to visit. Talk to me a little bit about your hijab. We have seen photos of you wearing it in Iran, but we can see you're obviously not wearing one here. So what are the guidelines surrounding that, and kind of what is it for?
So basically, it is the law to wear a hijab in Iran, but like as you can see, I'm not wearing hijab today, and I wasn't wearing it, and I haven't been wearing it the past few weeks that I've been here. So it's because you have to follow the rules, the laws, just like how you have to do that in any other country. But obviously, I'm sure you've seen the pictures on internet where women are fully covered and there's not even a strand of hair, but it's not like that anymore. It's not as strict because really the most you can do now and the most that women do in Iran right now is just putting a scarf over their head, and it doesn't matter how much hair is out. So but in schools, because it is the law, you have to do it the right way. You have to wear it. It's like a school uniform, but with hijab, and it's much more strict. So that's also a really big difference compared to here.
Gotcha. So it, like you said, it is much more strict in school than it would be just walking around, and obviously you are not required to wear it here in the U.S. So I know, like you said, with the pictures on the internet, people in the U.S. and people in Iran are definitely going to have a lot of misconceptions about either country. Can you talk to me a little bit about what maybe the perception of the Americans are in Iran and vice versa?
Right. So once again, it just comes back to what the news portrays and what you find on the internet. And I think they're both wrong. They're all wrong. Because I've talked to people here about Iran and I've talked to people in Iran about America. And nobody, well, obviously there are people who find bad things in everything. But most people that I've met and talked to about Iran here have never said anything bad to me, or if they have, it's because they've seen these things on the news where it looks like this poor country who doesn't have much, and that's not true. Like beside the school part, which really isn't bad, it just focuses on studies. Other than that, it's a pretty good school. I mean, everything else is really nice, and it's just like here. But once again, you go back to Iran, and I talk to people in Iran about America, and they see America as this paradise. And I'm not saying it's not a paradise, but it's not perfect. Nowhere in the world is perfect. And so I think that also comes back because you see these things and you think, compared to like Iran where you have hijab and those things, oh my God, it must be so different. It must be so much better. But being in both, I don't really see much of a difference. And I usually try to tell people both here and Iran that there's not much of a difference. They're both great countries who have their problems as well, but it's hard when you only see what the news shows you. But other than that, they're both great countries, and it would be really nice if people would start seeing both the good and the bad.
Absolutely, and as a woman in journalism, we are really lucky to have you on here and kind of give us some introspective thoughts into that perspective. We're glad you were able to come on. You made a very long travel to get here, so thank you once again. Anchors, back to you.